I'm going to read a passage from the first moment I included for September 11th in my book, Losing Linda May, a Cancer Caregiving Memoir. Bryce's apartment patio. Lights are strung between wooden posts on the deck. A table and its chairs are haphazardly placed, likely unmoved from the last time people were over. I take a deep breath and exhale slowly. Almost a year ago, I stood on this very spot and received the news of Mom's diagnosis. She did not know I was in Los Angeles at the time, so I stepped outside the apartment of the West Coast friends I was visiting to prevent her from hearing their voices. Mom could hardly get out any words except for the most important one, cancer. I know it's terrifying, but you can beat this, Mom. So many people get cancer, but the treatments are so good now, and everyone always talks about the process being so transformative. Like people are living truer versions of themselves because of the cancer making them appreciate life more. My head shakes, rejecting the words I spoke. The survivors who get media attention are not usually the ones who've been beaten down by treatment. No one wants to see a tattered shell of a person who overcame the disease but lost everything else in the process. I tip the oven mitt on the grill and a spare key to the apartment falls into my hand. I open the sliding glass door just like I did the last time I was here. However, today I do not interrupt the cheerful gabbing of my friends with the news of Mom's misfortune. Because it wasn't included in the book, I want to talk about how the rest of the day that I had found out that my mom had non-Hodgkin lymphoma unfolded. So like I said in the passage, I went back inside Bryce's apartment. I told the news to him, my friend Leah, and Al, and then of course started breaking down. They hugged me and were supporting me. And as I started regaining my composure, my dark sense of humor started kicking back in. I'm wiping away tears and I say to them, I guess it could be worse. My mom could have cancer. Oh wait. And of course, they laugh uncomfortably because what else do you do when your friend who just found out really horrible news is telling jokes about the situation? They were, of course, used to that because that is how I process trauma. So it wasn't the first time that I had made a joke in poor taste in front of them. As a reminder, I was 25 years old at the time. It was a few days from my 26th birthday. Part of the reason why I was in LA was to have a preemptive birthday celebration with my West Coast friends. So this was supposed to be a celebratory weekend, and I had this news looming over me. Everyone gave me the out that we could cancel all the plans that we had for that weekend so I could just process the news surrounded by people who love and cared about me without having to be social in any way. But I didn't really see the point in doing that. And I also didn't have any guilt about not being with my mom because she explicitly told me not to come back to Kansas until we knew the details of the chemotherapy regimen that she was going to start. So I gave the green light to continue with all of our plans. I did take a moment to myself to really sit with the news before we were about to embark on this evening of socialization. But once I was ready, we started pre-gaming at Bryce's apartment. Then we went to a bar called Harlow. Here's a picture of me at said bar. You would never guess if you looked at this that I had just found out that my mom had cancer. Then we took an Uber to Silver Lake, during which Bryce casually vomited out the window in such a discreet manner that none of us nor the Uber driver knew about it. He just kind of leaned over, rolled down the window, put his hand up, spewed out probably onto a passing car, and then slowly returned back to us. Didn't even wipe his mouth. It somehow was so clean and efficient just going out the window that way. Once we found out about that, after we had gotten out of the car, we all started calling it cash vomiting. You would never have guessed it would have even happened because Bryce immediately resumed drinking once we reached Akbar, this gay bar. Then we transitioned to a rooftop party being thrown by some USC grad students. I got progressively more hammered at that party, and I started telling a lot of strangers about my mom's new diagnosis in probably the worst way possible, in similar jokes to like I told before. Most people were really kind and thoughtful as they were responding to me, but then I found Jared, who really fed off of my dark sense of humor as well. So it was nice to volley back and forth with him in a really dark way. That was actually more therapeutic to me than all the condolences that I was receiving. Not only that, he really loved Lady Gaga as well. So needless to say, I went home with him. We hooked up. I stayed over at his place. And then I woke up with a crippling hangover and the memory that my mom still had cancer, which kind of sums up how it was during this early phase of my mom's cancer journey where I was still not with her physically, except for when I would travel home to be with her during her treatment. Otherwise, I was just living my frivolous 20-something life and just going about my day to day. And the only time I really had to reconcile with the fact that my mom had cancer was either when I would travel to see her or when I would talk to her on the phone. I also didn't fear losing my mom until her cancer metastasized to her brain and spinal cord. That's when I started getting really worried about the fact that I might actually lose her, not when she was initially diagnosed. That's why I could have a fun night out still in those early days, because it didn't actually feel like I would ever lose my mom. All in all, I don't actually think it was detrimental in any way that I was so blissfully ignorant and naive when she was initially diagnosed, because I didn't need to be tearing myself apart when she was just going through treatment and having a lot of success in her RCHOP regimen. She went into remission after only 2 rounds, so we should have been optimistic at that point. I should have been having fun because the doom and gloom was coming, and I didn't know that, of course, at the time, but I was better off being in such a good headspace there before then I went to be her primary caregiver, because things got really dark, as you see in my book. I'll be uploading another video tomorrow, September 12th, where I'll be talking about a lot of the content that I ended up cutting from this LA section of my book. So hit subscribe, leave any questions in the comments. The link to my book is in the description, and I will see you all then.